Hello, welcome to lesson 14 on the design and implementation of Soccer League Transfer Portal using server-side Blazor. Lesson 14 is basically a repetition of what we did in lesson 13, which is the customization and implementation of user access control for raw Crud pages. So I'm going to be a bit fast in this lesson. So I'm going to ensure that my SQL Server service is running. After starting the sequence, starting services.msc, I check and I see that the Bukunoluwa instance of SQL Server is running. So the next piece of business for me is to start Radzen. So I start Radzen and then I open the application that we are working on by double-clicking on it. Now the next piece of business for me is to run the application. Now the application has started. I'm going to log in as Moik. I type in my password. Then I click login. I go to roles pages. Let me click add. Click on save. It says role name is required. Okay. So let's stop the application and do some customization. So I stop the application. First of all, I go to add role. I'll customize the required field validator by putting space between role and role name, between role and name. Then I will go to edit row and repeat the same trick. Now the next piece of business for me is to duplicate edit row. So I duplicate it. Now I right click on copy of edit row. I'll select properties and I will change the name of that page to confirm delete row. Then I'll click save. Now after doing that, I will highlight the text box on that page and press delete. I'll highlight the required validator and press delete. Then I go to toolbox. I look for a label control. I drag and drop. I change the text property of this label control to $row.row name. And I click outside. Then I change the text property of the button to delete row. I change the icon of the button, the yellow button, to close. Now the next piece of business for me is I go to outline. I select the first row in the form, I duplicate it. Then I'll select the right column in the first row, then in the outline, I delete it. I'll select the label in the left column in the first row, I'll delete it. I will replace the deleted label with an heading from the toolbox. Now, I will change the properties of this heading. I'll change the size to H1 and I'm going to change the text of this heading to row. Now after doing that, I'll go to outline. I'll select the first row under the form. I'll duplicate it. I'll select the duplicated row heading. I'll change the size in properties to H3. Then I'll change the text to confirm if you want to delete this row. Then I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to drag so that confirm if you want to delete this row fits a single line. Now the next piece of business for me is that I'll go back to my pages. I'll go to the rows list page. I'll click on it. Then I'll click on the data grid on the rows list page. Then I'll click on the columns ellipsis. I'll select the last column, which actually houses the delete icon. Then the next piece of business for me is to click on edit template. Then I'll go to the delete, I'll select the delete button. Now after selecting the delete button, I'll go to events. Now after going to events, I will undo the click event. I'm going to delete all the current event handler there. And I'm going to replace the deleted event handler with mine. I've just added the new event handler and the action type I'm setting to open dialog. Which page am I opening to? Confirm delete row. Then I click the plus button to create a new parameter. I'll set the value of the parameter to template property role ID. Then I click OK. And the name of the parameter will be role ID. After that, I click done. Then I will click on end template editing. Now, the next piece of business for me will be to go to Visual Studio. So I go to my applications, then I will say show application in directory. Then I will double click on Soccer League Transfer App.solution file. So the Visual Studio project is opened. So the next piece of business for me is to implement access control. So where do I start from? Let me copy from edit player.cs. No, click no here. And I'm going to copy this. Copy. Then I'll now go to now I'm now going to go to add player row page. Sorry, add row. I'll now go to add row.razor. I expand it. I double click on add row.razor.cs. I paste in my access control code. I only want site admin to be able to access this page. Then the next piece of business for me is I'll go back to Radzen. I'll open the application. I'll click on add row. I'll open the load event handler. I've just added a new event handler and I'm calling the await check user status method. I promote this to the top of the page, then I click done. I'll go back to Visual Studio. I'm going to copy all this access control code. I'll take it to Solution Explorer. So as I go to Solution Explorer, I'll look for Edit Row. So here is Edit Row.Razor page. I paste. I will import all necessary namespaces. Now, after importing all necessary namespaces, the next piece of business for me to do is to go to the Edit Row page. And in the Edit Row page, I'm going to still call the check user status method. I click done. Now the next piece of business for me is to go to the row page itself, the row list page. This is the row list page. I click on it. Then I go to Visual Studio. I'm going to be copying the check user status method to the rows list page. So I look for the rows list page. Here is my rows list page. I import all necessary namespaces. Now, after importing all necessary namespaces, I'm going to save. Then I go back to Radzen. Then I make sure that I'm on rows page in Radzen. Then I'll go to the event handler for it. I'm going to add a new event handler. The action type will be execute C#, and the method to be called is await check user status. I'm going to promote this method to the top of the pile in the load event handler. Now, the last but not the least is the confirm delete row page. I'm going to implement access control for it. I'm going to copy code from confirm delete player position this time around. Confirm delete player position.razor.cs. Let me implement the access control first. So I copy from confirm delete player position to paste in confirm delete row. For now, I'll delete all this place. Now the next piece of business is to say else. Go back to rows page. Here, I'm going to import all the necessary namespace. Now the next piece of business for me The next piece of business for me is I'll go back to confirm delete player position.razor.cs. I'm going to copy the method that deletes a player position. I'm going to customize that method for the delete row page. I need to rebuild the application in Radzen. So I save up. I'm back to Radzen. I say run. Application has started in Radzen. So I stop the application. I come back to this method. I uncomment it again. This time around, I should be able to see the role ID parameter. Yes. To direct to rows list page. Row delete error. An error occurred while you were deleting row. Now the last piece, the next thing I'm going to do, okay, I'm going to hook up this Moik delete row method. So I go back to Radzen. I'll go to outline. I'll select the form. I go to events. I'll delete everything that is in the submit event handler and begin to add one of my own. Action type will be set to C#. Name of the method is await Moik delete row. I click done. Now after this, the next piece of business for me is to go to Solution Explorer, expand confirm delete row.razor.cx, double click on the designer.cx. I'll look for the load event. This is the load event. I'll copy the entire code here. I'll go back to confirm delete row and implement that code here. So then I'll go back to Radzen. I'll go to outline. I'll go to page. I'll go to events. Confirm delete row. Not calling check user status. Why? Okay, we've not called it. So all I'm going to do here is I'll delete all this execute C#. Await, check user status. Then I click done. There is an issue here with the role here. The role object doesn't exist on the page. So what do I do? I'm going to create a new event handler for the load event. I'll promote it to the top, change it to set property. The name will be role. I'll go to Solution Explorer in Visual Studio. Then I'm going to look for my models folder. Here is my models folder, and here is role.cs. Copy this. Visual Studio. I come back to Radzen. So I say role object. The value of it is new soccer league transfer app models .con data dot what? Dot row. The row. Come here, I paste it. Click OK. I come back to confirm. So I come back to confirm delete row.razor.cs. And I should not have that error again. So I save my entire project. Now the next piece of business for me. Oh, let me check before I run anything. Okay, so this is what I have in page. So now it's time for me to run. It's time to run our project in Visual Studio. So I run it in IS Express. So I'm going to log in as Ronaldo, put my password. I could attempt to go to the roles page as Ronaldo and bounce back. I log in as Muik. I type in my password. I click login. I go to the roles page. I'm allowed. I attempt to add a new role. Validation kicks in when I try to add an empty row, and I try to add a row called super admin. I click save. That's accepted. I double click on the super admin record to edit it. Change the role name to super admino. I click save. It's checking. Then I click delete. Bam. Confirm if you want to delete this row. So say all right. So everything works as expected. So this brings us to the end of lesson 14. Thank you for watching.